Welcome to this week's Blue Mondays. Blue Mondays is where we take a look at local, state, and national news through a democratic and really a progressive perspective. It's another Blue Mondays, and this week we're going to take a look at the voting machines with the Clerk of Court of Lafayette Parrish. We're going to be able to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how these machines run, how they operate, and what you can expect when you go and cast your vote this coming Saturday. It's very important that you do that. And also, later on in the program, we're going to discuss some of the local elections and call your attention to some individuals that we have out there that we should probably be reaching out and supporting. We'll also try and give you some information on the upcoming amendments that we're going to be voting on. There are 13 of them. And there's some that we should definitely probably pay some attention to. But first, as always, this week in the news. The nation is suffering a very large and profound loss. The state governor of Texas, Ann Richards, passed away just this past week, and it's a sad, sad loss for the entire country. Ann Richards was an amazing politician. She spoke truth to power, and she really stood up for the working man. It was one of her goals. One of her famous quotes was, she said that she didn't want to have it read on her tombstone that she kept a nice house. She said that she would much rather have it read on her tombstone that she opened up government to everyone. An amazing, amazing woman, and she will be sadly missed. So, a nation, we say goodbye to you, Ann Richards. You will be greatly missed. The Evangeline Oil and Gas Festival just happened. It was held this past Saturday and Sunday, September 16th and 17th in Evangeline, Louisiana. Democratic candidate Mike Stagg was definitely in attendance. However, big surprise, Congressman Boustany nowhere to be found. However, guess what? No votes were scheduled at all in Congress. It was a Saturday and Sunday, for gosh sakes. So why didn't he attend? Well, interestingly enough, he was out doing a huge fundraiser. With people in his district, you ask? No. He wasn't with people in his district. He was actually out doing a fundraiser for the Society of Thoracic Surgeons, their second annual legislative advocacy workshop. Wait, second annual? How long has Congressman Boustany been in the Congress? Oh yeah, 2 years. Interesting coincidence there. Unbelievable. You know, you'd think that the congressman would be spending a little bit of time with the people in his district who need it the most. Need I remind the congressman that we still have tens of thousands of people in his district that are homeless. These people have nothing. They lost everything, Congressman. You might want to spend some time hearing what's going on for them and maybe fighting and advocating for these individuals in Washington. They desperately need your help, and turning your back on them is unbelievable. More congressmen are going to jail. It just seems like there's going to be we're going to have to build more jails, it looks like. Bob Ney from Ohio is the latest Republican to be sent behind bars. That's right. He accepted a plea agreement, which I really kind of wish that they would have tried the sucker. In a large and growing list of Republicans embroiled in alleged corruptions, Ney joins Cunningham from California to cop pleas and be sent behind bars. However, as of our taping today, Ney still holds his seat in Congress. He is refusing to resign, even though he's basically admitted to being corrupt. Unbelievable. Tom DeLay is still being investigated in Texas for alleged money laundering, and the list goes on. What ties these folks to our congressman, you might ask? Well, interestingly, Congressman Boustany has accepted money from each one of these individuals. Each one of these individuals getting their money from corrupt practices. Congressman, you might want to take a look at your checkbook and consider returning some of this money, or maybe we'll be seeing you in the headlines next. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Boustany claims, though, that this money has never influenced any of his votes, and every single one of his votes has been for the people of his district. Really, Congressman? Then how come you've voted 98% of the time with these individuals who have given you the money, even when it has gone against the people of your district? Seems to me that I seem to remember my grandmother telling me that when you have two people and they agree all the time, then one of them's not needed. With this Congress, you have to wonder why this rubber stamping is continuing. It's unbelievable to me. Draw your own conclusions, Acadiana. If you want to send him back and say, Congressman, you're doing a good job, we should give you another 2 years to keep doing it. I think we really ought to think about that. However, that vote is coming up. Stay tuned. Keith Olbermann, you know, this guy is quickly becoming my idol. The person who I want to emulate and try and be more like every single day of the week. Keith Olbermann, again, takes it to the airwaves in an editorial. Here is part of his latest talk that he gave on his television show. Take a look.
Finally tonight, a special comment about the Rose Garden news conference last Friday. The President of the United States owes this country an apology. It will not be offered, of course. He does not realize its necessity. There are now none around him who would tell him, nor could. The last of them, it appears, was the very man whose letter provoked the President into the conduct for which the apology is essential. An apology is this President's only hope of regaining the slightest measure of confidence of what has been for nearly 2 years a clear majority of his people. Not confidence in his policies, nor in his designs, nor even in something as narrowly focused as which vision of torture shall prevail, his or that of the man who has sent him into apoplexy, Colin Powell. In a larger sense, though, the President needs to regain our confidence that he has some basic understanding of what this country represents, of what it must maintain if we are to defeat not only terrorists, but if we are also to defeat what is ever more increasingly apparent as an attempt to redefine the way we live here and what we mean when we say the word freedom. Because it is evident now that if not its architect, this President intends to be the contractor for this narrowing of the definition of freedom. The President revealed this last Friday as he fairly spat through his teeth words of unrestrained fury directed at the man who was once the very symbol of his administration, who was once an ambassador from this administration to its critics, as he had once been an ambassador from the military to its critics. The former Secretary of State, Mr. Powell, had written simply and candidly and without anger that the world is beginning to doubt the moral basis of our fight against terrorism. His President's response included not merely what is apparently the presidential equivalent of threatening to hold one's breath, but within it contained one particularly chilling phrase.
Mr. President, former Secretary of State Colin Powell says the world is beginning to doubt the moral basis of our fight against terrorism. If a former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and former Secretary of State feels this way, don't you think that Americans and the rest of the world are beginning to wonder whether you're following a flawed strategy?
If there's any comparison between the compassion and decency of the American people and the terrorist tactics of extremists, it's flawed logic. I simply can't accept that. It's unacceptable to think that there's any kind of comparison between the behavior of the United States of America and the action of Islamic extremists who kill innocent women and children to achieve an objective.
Of course it's acceptable to think that there's any kind of comparison. And in this particular debate, it is not only acceptable, it is obviously necessary, even if Mr. Powell never made that comparison in his letter. Some will think that our actions at Abu Ghraib or at Guantanamo or in secret prisons in Eastern Europe are all too comparable to the actions of the extremists. Some will think that there is no similarity, or if there is one, it is to the slightest and most unavoidable of degrees. What all of us will agree on is that we have the right, we have the duty to think about the comparison. And most importantly, that the other guy whose opinion about this we cannot fathom has exactly the same right as we do to think and say what his mind and his heart and his conscience tell him is right. All of us agree about that, except, it seems, this President. With increasing rage, he and his administration have begun to tell us that we are not permitted to disagree with them, that we cannot be right, that Colin Powell cannot be right. And then there was that one most awful phrase. In 4 simple words last Friday, the president brought into sharp focus what has been only vaguely clear these past 5.5 years, the way the terrain at night is perceptible only during an angry flash of lightning, and then a second later, all again is dark. It's unacceptable to think, he said. It is never unacceptable to think. And when a president says thinking is unacceptable, even on one topic, even in the heat of the moment, even in the turning of a phrase extracted from its context, he takes us toward a new and fearful path, one heretofore the realm of science fiction authors and apocalyptic visionaries. That flash of lightning freezes at the distant horizon, and we can just make out a world in which authority can actually suggest it has become unacceptable to think. Thus, the lightning flash reveals not merely a president we have already seen, the one who believes he has a monopoly on current truth. It now shows us a president who has decided that of all our commanders-in-chief ever, he alone has had the knowledge necessary to alter and reshape our inalienable rights. This is a frightening and a dangerous delusion, Mr. President. If Mr. Powell's letter, cautionary, concerned, predominantly supportive, can induce from you such wrath and such intolerance, what would you say were this statement to be shouted to you by a reporter or written to you by a colleague? Governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government. Those incendiary thoughts came, of course, from a prior holder of your job, Mr. Bush. They were the words of Thomas Jefferson. He put them in the Declaration of Independence. Mr. Bush, what would you say to something that antithetical to the status quo just now? Would you call it unacceptable for Jefferson to think such things or to write them? Between your confidence in your infallibility, sir, and your demonizing of dissent, and now these rages better suited to a thwarted 3-year-old, you have left the unnerving sense of a White House coming unglued. A chilling suspicion that perhaps we have not seen the peak of the anger, that we can no longer forecast what next will be said to or about anyone who disagrees, or what will next be done to them. On this newscast last Friday, constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley of George Washington University suggested that at some point in the near future, some of the detainees transferred from secret CIA cells to Guantanamo will finally get to tell the Red Cross that they have indeed been tortured. Thus, the debate over the Geneva Conventions might not be about further interrogations of detainees, but about those already conducted and the possible liability of the administration for them. That certainly could explain Mr. Bush's fury, but that, at this point, is speculative. At least, though, it would provide an alternative possibility as to why the president's words were at such variance from the entire history of this country. For there needs to be some other explanation, Mr. Bush, than that you truly believe we should live in a United States of America in which a thought is unacceptable. There needs to be a delegation of responsible leaders, Republicans or otherwise, who can sit you down as Barry Goldwater and Hugh Scott once sat Richard Nixon down and explain the reality of the situation you have created. There needs to be an apology from the President of the United States. And more than one. But Mr. Bush, the others, for warnings unheeded 5 years ago, for war unjustified 4 years ago, for battle unprepared 3 years ago, they are not weighted with the urgency and the necessity of this one. We must know that to you, thought with which you disagree, and even voice with which you disagree, and even action with which you disagree are still sacrosanct to you. The philosopher Voltaire once insisted to another author, "I detest what you write, but I would give my life to make it possible for you to continue to write." Since the nation's birth, Mr. Bush, we have misquoted and even embellished that statement, but we have served ourselves well by subscribing to its essence. Oddly, there are other words of Voltaire's that are more pertinent still just now. "Think for yourselves," he wrote, "and let others enjoy the privilege to do so too." Apologize, sir, for even hinting at an America where a few have that privilege to think, and the rest of us wind up getting yelled at by the president. Anything else, Mr. Bush, is truly unacceptable. I'm Keith Oldham.
Keep up the good work, Keith. We greatly appreciate the hard work that you're doing, and we're sure that you're taking a lot of criticism in the corporate media that you must serve. But keep it up. There's a lot of people paying attention, and we greatly thank you for standing up. What is torture? Well, you know, I guess we're debating, as the Republicans like to make so much steam out of President Clinton trying to define what the word is. It's interesting now that we find ourselves trying to debate what is torture. Well, you know, a little waterboarding never hurt anyone. It seems to be that they're saying. It's unbelievable to me that we're still having this type of debate. In fact, it was reported as of today that we're recording this show that the Republicans are threatening now to filibuster the legislation that has bipartisan support. There are a number of noted senators that have come out on the side of the Democrats to fight the president on what he would like to try and get passed. Basically, the president is asking for the permission for CIA agents to be able to torture. And not only that, for if they do torture, then they can't be sued for torturing. It's unbelievable to me that we would go this far and that we're having these types of debates. You know, and really, the crux of this whole thing is you have to take the step back and ask yourselves the question, has any information that has been gathered through utilization of torture ever yielded any positive results? The reason why we don't torture is because the information gathered during that time proves to be unreliable. There's a reason why we don't do it. And you know what? It's also not really humane. I think that we should probably use some of the same standards that we employ day in and day out with how we treat our own animals and our homes. If we don't do that to them, then why would we do it to a fellow human being? You know, for an administration that claims to be so Christ-like and so Christian, it's unbelievable to me that they would employ such tactics. It's disgusting, and it needs to stop. In America, you really need to think about this. They're doing this in your name. They're doing it in your name. We've got to do something about it. The president seems to not be listening to anybody, though. He's pressing forward, and while many of the different people in his administration have been coming out and saying that there's some wiggle room here and there are some compromises that can be made, I feel very safe and secure knowing that John McCain is looking at this. After all, this is a man who had to endure torture himself. Governor Blanco was in Lafayette today, the day that we're recording this show. She was here for the Women Who Mean Business luncheon that is sponsored every single year by The Independent Weekly. The Independent did an incredible job at this event, and we were really glad to see the governor give the keynote address at this event. As a matter of fact, here are some of the clips from her speech at the Women Who Mean Business lunch.
And Louisiana could not have gotten through those most difficult days without the help of so many people here in this Lafayette city and the parish and the region. It made all the difference in the world. And then, as though we had not met enough challenges, less than a month later comes Hurricane Rita. Over 100,000 people have registered for our Road Home program. We believe there are 22,000 people more who are eligible. So if you know anyone whose home was heavily damaged or destroyed, please make sure that they register and then fill out the application for the Road Home program. This is a real estate transaction, and it is intended to get housing back up. Those two storms devastated 200,000 housing units. 122,000 privately owned homes, and the rest were rentals. We have a rental program for landlords who will agree to keep rents affordable, and they can have a forgivable loan. My goal in this recovery is not to build the same as before. It is to rebuild safer, stronger, and smarter. And all of those elements are incredibly important. Working to bring new businesses and new industries into this state. And I made a rule that kind of shook some of my economic developers. But I said, if anybody wants state help, they have to provide quality jobs. Quality jobs means they have to have decent pay, livable pay, and benefits like health insurance. And those are my demands. We have to build an economy for our people. Right here in Lafayette this morning, we opened the Light Center. This is one piece of a technology investment that is going to change the dynamics, the economic dynamics of this community and our entire state. This investment is a unique investment in the United States of America. Carlina Cruz told me, the lady that is heading up the Light Center, who's one of the designers of the technology, what a brilliant thing to do was to bring the designer in. Carlina tells me that only 4 states have anything similar, but none have the entire package. Some have supercomputing, some have imaging, none have both. We power the nation, we feed the nation, and we transport their grain and produce to the rest of the country with our ports. Those are the 3 things that Louisiana does for the United States of America, and we have forgotten to let the nation know that. Since the storm, they have begun to learn that. So help me send a strong message. I think that it's important that we stand shoulder to shoulder with people across this country and speak of our worth and say that we can save ourselves, because all of our industries are in jeopardy. Our culture is in jeopardy. Our raison d'etre is in jeopardy if we don't invest in coastal restoration and hurricane protection.
You know, the governor is showing incredibly strong leadership, especially by drawing the line in the sand, stating that any of this money that we're able to help businesses with after the recovery of Rita and Katrina, that these companies, in order to receive any of this money, that they're going to have to offer good-paying jobs, and these jobs must come with health insurance benefits. Incredible job, Governor Blanco. Keep up the good work. We definitely need this type of leadership, especially moving forward, in order to get ourselves out of the mess that we're in right now. That's for sure. Next week, we'll probably bring you a little bit more of this address, if we can, because it was an incredible meeting that I think that you guys will definitely want to tune in and see more of. Elections are this Saturday. That's right, this coming Saturday. The polls will be open at 6 a.m. and they stay open until 8 p.m. Here are a couple tips for you, okay? First off, you're going to want to bring a photo ID with you to speed the process. However, they cannot refuse to allow you to vote if you don't have a photo ID. Instead, you're going to have to use a provisional ballot or to sign an affidavit stating that this is who you are and these are the votes that you'd like to cast. Don't let them turn you away. Instead, tell them that you still want to vote. They have to provide this means to you. However, to speed the process, to make things easier, if you do have a photo ID, definitely bring it with you. We have more on an upcoming segment. As a matter of fact, the next segment that we're going to be bringing you is going to be an in-depth look at the new voting machines. We've had a lot of questions from individuals out there in the community about these new machines, how they work, are they safe, and can we trust what these machines are going to tell us at the end of the election day on who has been elected? We're going to try and answer all of those questions for you in our upcoming segment, where we get to sit down with Louis Perret, the Clerk of Courts for Lafayette Parish. Richard Warren actually had the chance to interview the Clerk of Courts, and it's an incredible segment that you won't want to miss. However, there are other things that we're going to be voting on this coming Saturday. That's right. The biggest election that we have right now, there are 2 statewide races, one of which we definitely want to remind you of. State Senator Francis Heitmeyer, who has appeared on our show here on Blue Monday at least 2 different times throughout the past month. He is running for Secretary of State. We strongly urge that you show up and support Secretary Heitmeyer in his bid for the Secretary of State. After all, it is the Secretary of State's job to ensure that the elections are conducted fair, honestly, and that there is an impartial judge to be able to preside over these elections. We can think of no one else better. After all, the gentleman that he is running against, the 2 gentlemen that he's running against, one seems to, by his legislative record, he seems to be incredibly biased against people who want to vote, and the other one used to be the head of the Republican Party for the state of Louisiana. I think that doesn't really speak well on their resume for applying for this job. After all, if you watch their commercials, It's unbelievable to me that they're telling you in their commercials that they've cut taxes. Secretary of State has nothing to do with taxes. Why would they be advertising that to you unless they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes a little bit? Anyhow, we urge you to support Secretary Heitmeyer. Parish-wide, though, we have some school board races. A lot of them are incredibly interesting. We're going to have some information as we cut off to break here for you on these races. We also have races in the smaller cities inside the parish and outside of the parish, actually, as well. Mayor and city council and alderman positions are open in the cities of Broussard, Carencro, Youngsville, Scott, and Dusau. It is important that you take a look online. You can actually check our website where we have the ballots, sample ballots for you for all of these individual races for whichever of these smaller cities that you live in. If you live outside of the city of Lafayette, you'll be able to get that information. If you are joining us now in Iberia Parish or Vermilion Parish or one of the other parishes that we are broadcasting in, we strongly recommend that you go to sos.louisiana.gov. There you'll be able to get your own sample ballot. You'll be able to click on the parish that you live in and then click through onto the precinct number that you vote at, and you'll be able to see the exact ballot that you'll be casting on Saturday. It's always better to go prepared. As a matter of fact, I recommend to you to go ahead and print out a copy from online and circle who you're going to be voting for and bring it with you on Election Day. It'll help you move through the lines because since we're going to be using these new machines for the first time in a statewide election, the lines might be a little bit long. So you might want to prepare for a little bit of extra time, but it'll be worth it. It will definitely be worth it. And that is your Blue Monday news for September 25th, 2006. We would like to welcome you to Blue Mondays. If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. We're here every single Monday night on AOC Channel 15, and we're broadcasting now into 5 separate parishes. So we welcome all the folks that are joining us from outside our normal and traditional viewing area. You might notice that we're kind of kicking up our show a little bit more. We're going to try and make it a little bit more fast-paced and bring you more information in more bite-sized chunks so that it's easier to deal with. We'd also like to remind you that set your alarm clock about 5 minutes early tomorrow morning and get your cup of coffee and curl on up with your computer and click on over to theadvertiser.com. Every single Tuesday morning you'll be able to check out a political column from me called The Left Blog. You'll be able to click right on my picture on the Daily Advertiser's website and see what my thoughts are for this week. Also, as always, you can check out LafayetteDemocrats.org for more information, or you can call us on our Democratic hotline at 769-7347. And with that, we'll be right back with an interview with Louis Perret. Louis Perret is the Lafayette Parish Clerk of Courts, and we were able to join him where he was doing community education training on how to use these new voting machines. We'll be joined by Richard Warren. Richard Warren is able to talk to the clerk and find out how these machines work. We get a demonstration so that you won't have any surprises for you come Election Day. So we'll be right back just after a few messages. We'll come back to Richard's interview with Louis Perret.
The hurricane has passed, but the recovery won't be complete until all the water has receded. If you're having trouble coping, Trained and Caring Help is waiting.
Hello, folks. My name is Richard Warren, and I'm with AOC, and today I'm at the Martin Luther King Center with Mr. Louis Perret, the Secretary, Register of Voters.
Clerk of Court.
Clerk of Court.
Right.
There we go. And Mr. Perret's down here today with the new state electronic voting machines. And today I'll be asking him a few questions, and he will also give us a demonstration on the electronic voting machines. The first question I'd like to ask you, Mr. Perret, is why do we have new electronic machines? What was wrong with the old ones, or was there?
Well, the old machines were very dependable. They were quite cumbersome. They were quite heavy. And they were almost 100 years old. Just like technology advances, what really brought this on was the 2000 election. almost a month, we didn't know who the President of the United States was.
Right.
And Congress passed the Help of America Vote Act, in which they appropriated $3 billion to buy new voting machines in every precinct in the United States of America. And what you see today here is $47 million that the state of Louisiana spent to get new voting machines. We're very, very excited to have them.
Wow. Well, after that debacle and after all of this money commitment that the taxpayers have made towards these machines, how reliable are electronic voting machines?
We're going to find out when we have our first statewide election, but we feel good about these. These machines have actually been used in an earlier version in a few small parishes in Louisiana, but this is the first time statewide that we will have them, as well as in November, the first time nationwide over the whole country that electronic voting machines will be used. We feel that when people use them and they become more familiar with them, that they're going to be okay, but that remains to be seen.
Okay. Just like a individual goes to an ATM machine or get online and shops for an item, is his data could be lost or stolen or corrupted. Is there are these machines capable of being tampered with to alter the
well,
outcome?
I believe everything is capable of being tampered with, but if the proper procedures are followed, what I mean by that is that you never have any one person that has the key to the voting machine that can change the program. We should be okay on that. These machines do have a paper backup. What you're referring to is in the cyber world, stuff disappears, goes out into the world, and you never lose. If anybody that's ever typed a term paper, until you get that hard copy, you're always worried whether it's going to be deleted or not. And I feel very comfortable as I become educated, as my staff has learned more about them. We feel more and more comfortable, and I think the voters will as well once they get to use them. You'll still come in, you'll still present your photo ID, you'll still sign the registration book like you've always done before. The new part is the electronic full-face ballot. What you'll do here is you'll come in. This is a test ballot. I'm going to vote for George Washington for governor. When you punch the button, you'll see George Washington's name light up. You'll look down right here, and it'll show Governor George Washington. Right here, I'm going to then go to Secretary of State. I'm going to vote for Rosa Parks for Secretary of State. Treasurer, Booker T. Washington. When you look down, you'll see the name listed of who you're voting for. You still have not cast your ballot yet. This is very, very important. You have to look all the way across, and in the right-hand side, on the bottom, you'll say, cast vote. This is lit up. You will hear a noise go off when your vote has been cast. You listen. The light goes out. It shows your vote has been cast.
Right.
Then your vote will be tallied.
Okay. So electronic, there's almost like when you pull that lever back the old way and the curtains open, you're done.
Louisiana had a nickname. It was called the bell ringing state, because when you used to pull the lever to open up the curtains, a bell would go off. And that's how they got the nickname, the bell ringing state. One of the complaints that we have had about the new voting machines being follically challenged like I am, is that the ladies say the curtains don't open automatically to not affect their hair. Having so little hair myself, it doesn't really bother me. But the voting machines on election day will look like this. And if you'll grab that curtain, right there is what you'll see to ensure your privacy.
Right.
You want to bring a child or a grandchild in to vote with you, they'll be allowed to go in right here. But we feel very good about these machines, and I think as the public utilizes them more and becomes more comfortable with them, they will see that they work.
Right. Okay, now, Mr. Perret, as a voter, before he leaves his house, what items should he bring to the polls with him in order to vote?
Well, what we always tell people is to bring their driver's license. But we have some older voters, perhaps, that don't drive, that may have any type of photo ID. Anything like that, by law, you're required to present a photo ID to vote. However, you can vote by affidavit without a photo ID. If you insist on doing that, you'll be required to fill out a short form. If every voter went to fill out the short form and did not have a photo ID, we would still be counting votes on Mardi Gras. So a photo ID, and by law, the commissioners are required to ask you for your ID. As a matter of fact, the governor of the state of Louisiana votes at my home precinct. I was there when she went in to vote. They told her, "Good morning, Governor. Can we see your ID?" And part of that is upholding the law, of following the law, to make sure everybody's name is announced when they present themselves to vote.
Okay, well, let me ask you another question. As I leave my house, how do I know, or before I leave my house, how do I know which location to go to? Where should I check to find out where should I go to vote?
Every single voter receives a card in the mail at least once a year or every other year that tells them their voting precinct. If they should, by God, be moved, a voting precinct be moved, they will receive several notifications along with several public information office. But everybody, wherever you voted in the past is where you'll vote again, or you can call the clerk's office at 291-6400, and we will look up where you vote.
Right. Now, we're approaching an election this in about a week or two.
September 30th.
September 30th. What was the cutoff time for registration?
30 days prior is the cutoff time. So if you register to vote now, you can still vote in the November election. It's too late for September. But it's never too late to register to vote. You have a duty as a United States citizen to educate yourself and participate in voting. And I want the listeners out there to know we don't do this by ourselves. It takes the public's involvement to ensure the integrity of voting. It's everybody working together that makes America what America is.
When the voter enters the booth, they will see lights where they are voting. On each race they will vote on, there will be a light. You press the selection you desire and look down, and you will see the candidate you've chosen. You go to the next race that's lit up. You select this candidate. You'll be shown the candidate you voted for. Go to the next race. You'll be shown the candidate you voted for, and you must go to the right bottom of the machine and press the Cast Vote button for your vote to count. And after you do that, it shows you vote is recorded and thanks you for voting. To demonstrate, if you vote for John Adams, as is marked here, it shows you voted for John Adams, and you've decided that that's not the person you want to vote to. You simply deselect John Adams. It'll show you that that's canceled, and you vote for the person you want to vote for.
Well, Mr. Perret, we certainly thank you for your time. You've explained a lot about the machine. For more information about the voting machines, or just to get in contact with your office, is there a number?
They can call our elections department at 291-6368. 291-6368. We stand ready and willing to help. We need people to go out and vote. Part of being an American is participating in our representative democracy by voting. Thank you very much for what y'all are doing.
Well, thank you too, sir.
Hi, we're the Lafayette Parrish Clerk of Court election team reminding you to go out and vote this Saturday.
And that was Richard Warren with Louis Perret. Louis Perret, we thank you for your time, Mr. Clerk of Courts. You did an incredible job of showing us exactly what to expect on Election Day. You know, moms and dads, I think it's really important that a great way for you to show your kids just how important it is to play a part in our democratic society is to take them with you on Election Day. Show them how important it is and how powerful it is for you to go and make your voice heard. There's no better way, I think, to spend your Saturday morning is with your kids and taking them out and showing them how to vote. I think that would be great. Next up, in our next segment, we are going to take a look at the upcoming races. I'm going to be joined by Frank Flynn, where we go through, and this segment was recorded a little bit earlier in the month, but we figured it was really important for us to go back through some of these races and give you kind of a heads up as to what to expect. We have more information on our website, including the information for the state constitutional amendments that are being asked. We have 13 of them. That's right, 13 of them for you to go in. I strongly recommend, though, on the first 13 amendments, the first 3 I strongly support, and I urge you to do the same. And talking with our friends down in New Orleans, those first 3 amendments are incredibly important for us to support. The rest of them, all we'll try and cover on our website and give you a little bit more information of them before the close of the show.
You've been there for us. Let us be there for you. The hurricanes have affected everyone. If you are a rescue worker who needs someone to talk to, trained in caring help is waiting. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is take care of yourself.
Hi, I'm Amy Goodman, host of Democracy Now!, your daily grassroots, global, unembedded, independent, international news hour. Watch Democracy Now! Here on AOC Channel 19 in Lafayette, weekdays at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Tune in.
When it rains, all my friends go away. God doesn't like me anymore. Santa won't know where to find me. You can drown in your bed if you fall asleep. Tick, tick. 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 Massive heat waves. Heat waves. Tick. Severe droughts. Tick. 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 Devastating hurricanes. Tick. 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 Tick.
Our future is up to you.
Tick.
Go to fightglobalwarming.com while there's still time.
So next up, here is Frank Flynn in an interview that I did with him earlier this month, talking to him about the different folks that are running for election and that will be on the ballot this coming Saturday. Take a look.
That's right. There's a special election coming up with a lot of the municipality elections, September 30th, so that we're less than 30 days away. And one of the bigger races is the Secretary of State race, and I'm pleased to say that Francis Heichmeyer, a seasoned veteran in the state Senate, has entered the race. He's well financed with reference to, apparently he's got a lot of constituents that have believed in him through the years. I've taken a look at his record, and I'm most impressed with the fact that he says the number one priority with reference to the Secretary of State's office is to ensure fair and honest elections. And you do that by having the voting machines, good voting machines, have a backup paper trail, make sure that the machines are maintained and tested before they go out to the site, to election site. And that's his number one priority. And I think that here in Louisiana, as in any other state in the Union, that's what everybody wants. Whether you're a Democrat, Independent, Republican, you want fair and honest elections.
We're dealing with new voting machines this time around.
Well, let me tell you, we had the greatest voting machines, and they were tested when Mary Landrieu first ran for office. Her opponent and Mary had a race. Lewis Jenkins was his name. They had a race within 5,000 votes. So what that came down to was they needed an accurate count of the 5,000 or so precincts in Louisiana, and the machines proved that they were accurate, and there were some alleged irregularities. And the official count, the count that give or take a few votes, was deemed accurate. So we had great machines, and I'm proud to say that the same company that was working on those machines are responsible for the new computerized machines with the paper backup. So that's, to me, it's reassuring. At the last election, I saw actually how it worked, and they're getting all the kinks out. So we're going to have a good count come September 30th, and I am very pleased that Francis Heichmeyer has said that that's one of his number one priorities, is to manage that. And I believe him because he's been in the state Senate, he's run for elected office, he knows the importance of it, and he's not a bureaucrat.
So these other races, we've got the surrounding municipalities in the parish that are running, and we're going to talk specifically about Lafayette Parish, since that's the committee that you and I both serve on. But the outlying areas, we're now seeing in 5 parishes now, so we urge you to reach out and check the Secretary of State's website and find out who the candidates are in your area.
Let me just start off with the mayor's race. They have a hotly contested mayor's race in Broussard. Now, Charlie Longanay is a Democrat. He's moderate, conservative, but you need to look beyond. You need to look at the person, whatever the party label is. But Charlie Longenay has been in office for, I believe, 8 years, and he had a heated race last time where he won by 100 votes, and I think since that election night, he's doubled his efforts to do a much improved job in Broussard. And ever since 4 years ago, Charlie has had the good fortune of building neighborhoods and building roads, building shopping centers. There's a lot of economic development in Broussard, and there's a lot of neighborhood development, and that's a tribute to Charlie Longenay and his refortified efforts to be very progressive. So I'm very proud of what he's done in Broussard over the last, I think it's 5 seats, 5 seats in the city of Broussard for council person. I would like to congratulate Terry Gilbo. He was the candidate for District Number 1. He's an incumbent, and he's an incumbent Democrat and won unopposed. So that was good news for him. In District 4, the Gertrude Baptiste, who is on the Housing Authority, and Cynthia Jacquette, who is the niece of Harold Johnson and has some qualifications on her own, should make for a very good race. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of discussions of the issues in the District 4 race and the importance of that race. It looks like when all is said and done that there will probably be 2 Democratic councilmen in Broussard, hopefully with the Democratic mayor. Let me talk just a moment about Dusson. Dusson, they have the mayor, John Longenay. He was up for re-election, but nobody saw fit to run against him, and I think that's because he's done a remarkably great job with reference to raising funds and having surplus for the projects that are going on in Dusson. And in fact, I think he did such a great job that when the legislature met, there was a couple of projects or grants that there was a question about whether Dusson could get it because they had some money, and Longenay should be credited with building the tax base over in Dusson. What's really exciting in Dusson this go-around is the chief of police. We have a Democratic incumbent, Ronald Lewis, who I think has been in office 2 terms, and he draws opposition every time, and I don't know why that is. I think it's because in a small community, police chief is an important position, and people see things different ways, and sometimes they're looking for a change. I look for there's probably going to be a runoff in that race, and I look for the Democrat to do well, and too close to call right now, but we'll have to come back and talk in October. That's right. And there's 6 alderman seats up. There's 5 seats up, but there's 6 candidates running, and I'm pleased to say that all 6 candidates are Democrats. I know several of them personally, and from what I understand is the candidate with the most votes in the alderman race becomes mayor pro tem. In other words, he'll sit in when the mayor's out of town. Carencrow's a good area. The Carlos Stute is the chief of police there, and he's drawn opposition from the old chief of police, Timmy Duyon. I do note that Timmy's a Republican. I think that's a recent occurrence since Timmy's lost the last time out. But anyway, from what I understand is that the qualifications, Carlos Stute ran on his qualifications, and he had a lot of experience, and that's what carried him over 4 years ago. I suspect that's probably what's going to happen this time. So I'm looking to see that seat, chief of police being Democrat. And the way it works out in Carencrow, 5 seats, the candidates, the top 5 that get the most votes will then go in as councilman. We have a lot of good Democrats running the race. Alan Conk, we have Dean Fuselier, J.L. Richard, you've got Bobby Badon, and Anthony Babineau. A lot, yes, and Al Senegal. I expect that in that election, since it's so local and there's so many good candidates running, that you'll have a good turnout. Lafayette's surrounded by the Democrats. You know, let's see, with the chief of police. Let's see who our candidates are.
Yeah, we've got Ched Leger, right?
He's the incumbent. Right.
And but he has some opposition in Paul Broussard, who's the Republican.
Yeah. Now, I think that's such. And I don't know either candidate personally, but I would think that Chad has done his homework. Yeah, with the Boudreaux starting probably before Stafford Boudreaux have been old families in Scott, and I'm sure Bob is related to Stafford. Might be a grandson or a great-grandson. And I've met their family, and they take their politics serious. So I would think that Bob Boudreaux is going to be looking for every vote, just like Danny Oye will be. So the Lafayette Parish School Board, I'm sure each of the members have put in an extra amount of time and energy, but there's some changes that need to be made. And I think that the school board needs to revisit the class size issue. To develop a child's educational capabilities is in pre-K through third grade, and I think it's critically important, and the scores back it up, that there's tremendous development and potential during those grades. But look, the school board can't do it all by itself. The primary responsibility rests with the student and the family. Lafayette's very progressive. They need a very progressive educational agenda. I'm looking to tout Albert Kyrie. Al and I were in high school and grammar grades. He's a couple of years younger than me, but he comes from a disciplined background. He was a coach, I think, at Father Turling's High School. In fact, his track team did very well, but he also he was a teacher, so he's an educator. But the most important thing about Al Kyrie is that he's very reasoned. Yeah. I mean, he's not going to let anybody's agenda or any party agenda get in the way of doing the right thing. I mean, he's a solid individual, and he's going to do a remarkable job. Ray Trahan, who is president or past president of the Bus Drivers Association, is now on the board, so she'll have some unique insight. I do think that the bus drivers got a bad rap, and with reference to some of the public relation issues that flew around, they didn't get the public relations they needed to show what a great job they do in safely bringing the kids from the house to the school and then back from school to the house. I don't know Mary, and I don't know Russell Meyer. I am glad to see that the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce and the Southwest, the African American Chamber of Commerce, are coming together to to discuss the issues and to exchange ideas, because that's what we are about, is about community here in Lafayette, and more organizations need to get involved with reference to public education issues. Well, I just hope everybody goes out and votes, and I hope it's a good day to vote, meaning that the weather's good, so that nobody will have an excuse. It's like in some elections across the board we have low turnouts. Other elections, when there's a lot of issues and a lot of money spent on campaigns, the voter turnout's a little bit higher. I like to see the voter turnout high when there's no real money spent, when there's some real issues discussed, and that's when we know that we've got a consensus going in the parish.
Well, I couldn't have said any better, so I'm not going to try. This has been Frank Flynn. He is the chairman of the Lafayette Parrish Democratic Executive Committee, and we thank him for being on the show tonight. Thanks. And that was Frank Flynn telling us about the different elections that we have going on. And that brings us to a close of another Blue Mondays. Again, Blue Mondays is where we take a look at state, national, and local news through a progressive perspective. We are here each and every Monday night on AOC Channel 15, and we really are happy that you came and spent some of your week with us. It's incredibly important in this society for us to stand up. It is our patriotic duty to dissent when we don't agree with what our government is doing. We're doing our part here, and we'll hope you'll join us. Thanks a lot for joining us on Blue Mondays. Come back and see us again next Monday night, 9 o'clock on AOC Channel 15. Thank you, and good night.